Hello, everyone. Obviously, I am not here today, but I did record this video yesterday of me going through all of the examples and the warm up and everything that's in this lesson, like I normally would in class. As long as you pay attention to this video, this should help you with your cool down for today's lesson. As far as our goal for this lesson, we're going to continue on from where we left off with yesterday. Remember, we've been talking a lot about writing equations, what a variable represents, what's a fixed quantity, what's a variable quantity. We've been looking at a lot of that. Today, we're going to look more at the solutions of an equation, what it means for a number to be a solution, and how we can find possible solutions to an equation. So that is our goal for today's lesson. With that in mind, let's go right into the warm-up. Okay. So this is the warm-up, which is on slide 3, if you want to follow along. So here we go. A granola bite contains 27 calories. Most of the calories come from C grams of carbohydrates. The rest come from other ingredients. 1 gram of carbohydrate contains 4 calories. The equation 4C plus 5 equals 27 represents the relationship between these quantities. Priya said that 8 could not be the solution to the equation. Explain why she is correct. So how do we know whether a number is a solution or not? We figure that out by plugging the number in, and if we get a correct statement, then we have a solution. If we don't get a correct statement, then we don't have a correct solution. So if we want to find out if 8 is a solution to the equation or not, we're going to take the 4C minus 5, and we're going to plug in 8. So we're going to take the 4C plus 5 equals 27, and I'm going to plug in 8 for C. So that's going to be 4 times, let me use a different color here, 4 times 8 plus 5. All right, so 8 times 4, that is 32. And if I add 5 to that, I get 37. Okay. So when I plug in 8 for C, I get an answer of 37, not 27. So when Priya says that 8 is not a solution, is she correct? She is. Why is she correct? She's correct because we do not get 27 when plugging 8 in for C. If we did, it would be a solution. So that answers number 1. Number 2, find the solution to the equation. So, in other words, solve the equation 4C plus 5 equals 27. So you might remember from when you first learned how to solve equations, this is a 2-step equation in which we have to first get rid of the addition and subtraction. So in other words, I have to get rid of the plus 5 first. How do I get rid of plus 5? I have to do the opposite, which is subtract 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And when I do that, 5 minus 5 cancels, and I end up with 4C equals 27 minus 5, which is 22. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 4 in order to get rid of the multiply. Why divide? Because divide is the opposite of multiply. So I have to divide both sides by 4 in order to get rid of the 4 there, just like I had to subtract 5 from both sides to get rid of the 5, since subtraction and addition are opposites of each other. So we have to do 22 divided by 4. If you don't know, if you can't do that in your head, then use a calculator. There's no shame in doing that. So I'll just use Desmos here. So we want to do 22 divided by 4. All right, and when we do that, we get 5.5. So C in this case is going to equal 5.5. C equals 5.5. So that right there is the solution to this equation. All right. So that is your warm-up. Let's go right into the examples. So if you're on the slideshow, flip over to the next slide and let's take a look at this first set of examples here. Jada has time on the weekends to earn some money. A local bookstore is looking for someone to help sort books and will pay $12.20 an hour. To get to and from work every day, to get to and from bookstore on a workday, however, Jada would have to spend $7.15 on a bus fare. Okay? So for those of you that have jobs, they usually figure out your salary by taking your hourly rate and multiplying it by the number of hours that you work. So in this case, to write an equation, for number one, write an equation that represents Jada's take-home earnings in dollars, E, if she works at the bookstore for 8 hours in one day. So to answer that question, okay, it would be, let's see here, it would be $12.20, $12.20 being her hourly rate. So $12.20 times H, her number of hours. Okay, so $12.20 times H, the number of hours, would give her the amount of money she makes from the bookstore. The problem is she also has to spend $7.15 each time she works because she takes the bus. So is that $7.15, is that going to take away from her earnings, or is it going to add to her earnings? Obviously, because she's spending it, it's going to take away from her earnings. So we're going to subtract $7.15 because that has to be taken away each day she works because she spends it on the bus. So $12.20 times H minus her bus fare, and that would give you her total earnings, which they said to use the letter E. So that right there is your equation for number one. All right, if I take $12.20 times the number of hours, that gives her her wages from the bookstore. Then I subtract the money she spends on the bus, the minus $7.15. That gives me her total earnings for each day, which they said to use E. Okay. One day, Jada takes home $90.45 after working 8 hours and after paying the bus fare. Write an equation to represent this situation. So in this situation, they're saying she takes home $90.45. The question is, am I going to plug that in for H or am I going to plug that in for E? All right. I'm going to actually plug it in for E because it says that she took home that money after working and after paying the bus fare. So I'm going to plug in $90.45 for E. So 1220 times H minus $7.15 equals $90.45. So that right there would be your equation for number 2. Write an equation to represent this situation. This one right here. Okay, this one right here would be your equation. Okay. Number 3, which I will do down here, find a solution to the last equation you wrote. So in other words, find a solution to this equation. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. So 1220 H minus $7.15 equals $90.45. Okay. So I'm going to solve this equation for H. So I'm going to solve this the same way I solved the warm-up. I'm first going to get rid of the addition or subtraction. In this case, I have to get rid of the subtraction. How am I going to get rid of the subtraction? I'm going to do the opposite. So the opposite of minus is plus. So I'm going to add $7.15 to both sides. Okay, that will cancel out that, and I'll be left with 1220 times H equals, and we'll put this in the calculator, $90.45, $90.45 plus $7.15, and I get an answer of 97.6, which would be $97.60. All right. So I got rid of the minus $7.15. Now, in order to solve for H, I have to get rid of the multiplication by doing the opposite. So I'm going to divide both sides by $12.20. Okay, in order to get rid of that. So now I have to do $97.60 divided by $12.20, and I get 8. So H equals 8. So find the solution to the last equation you wrote. The solution is H equals 8. What does that solution mean in the context of this problem? In other words, the context of Jada working at the bookstore. Well, we figured out that H equals 8. Now, what was H? H, remember, was the number of hours that she works in a day. So if H equals 8, that means she's working 8 hours. So in this context, the solution means if she works 8 hours, she will take home $90.45 at the end of the day. All right, I will write that down again so you can get it. So because H equals 8, if Jada works 8 hours, she will take home $90.45 at the end of the day. Okay? So that is what your solution means in context. So not only are we figuring out solutions, but we're figuring out what the solution means. Okay? In this case, the solution was the number of hours that Jada worked. I have one more set of examples that I want to go through, and that is on slide number 5. So flip over to slide number 5, and that is the one about the salt shaker. Okay, so let's take a look at that one. This example, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to because it's very similar to your cool down on this lesson. So a ceramic salt shaker weighs approximately 350 grams when empty. It is then filled with salt. 1 tablespoon of salt weighs 10 grams. The equation G equals 350 plus 10T represents the relationship between the quantities in this situation, where G is the weight in grams of the filled salt shaker, and T is the number of tablespoons of salt in the shaker. Okay. 5, name a possible solution to the equation G equals 350 plus 10T. What does that solution mean in the context of this problem? So we want to figure out one possible solution to this problem. There are 2 variables here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a number for T, and then we're going to see what we end up with G. So I'm just going to pick a random number. Does it matter what number I pick? It does not. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to plug in. So I'm going to take the equation G equals 350 plus 10T, and I'm going to choose to plug in 5 for T. Is there any reason why I picked 5? No, I just literally picked a random number. You could pick any number you want. So I'm choosing 5. So if T equals 5, then that means if I plug this in here, this is going to be 350 plus 10 times 5 is 50. So 350 plus 50 is 400. Okay? So name a possible solution to this equation. One possible solution would be T equals 5 and G equals 400. So that is one possible solution. I could figure out a number of solutions by just changing the value that I plug in for T. I just happen to pick 5. Okay? The more important one is, what does that solution mean in context? So T equals 5. What does T represent again? T is the number of tablespoons of salt. Okay, so that means T equals 5 means I'm putting 5 tablespoons of salt in the shaker. So 5 tablespoons of salt in the shaker. Okay. And then G equals 400. G, remember up here, G is the weight in grams of the filled salt shaker. Okay. So this is telling me that the weight of the filled salt shaker is 400 grams, since G equals 400. So the weight of the filled salt shaker is 400 grams. Okay, so I identified a solution, T equals 5 and G equals 400, and I explain what it means. T equals 5 means there's 5 tablespoons of salt in the shaker, and G equals 400 means that the weight of the shaker is 400 grams. So that is your answer to number 5. One more question here, and then we're done. Number 6, consider the equation 460 equals 350 plus 10T. In this situation, what does this equation tell us? So in this situation, they're setting the equation equal to 460, which, remember, is the G value. The G value is the weight of the filled salt shaker. So if I were to solve this equation, notice it's not asking us to solve it. It's just asking us to tell them what the solution represents. The solution, if I solved for t, would be the number of tablespoons of salt that results in a weight of 460 grams. So the number of tablespoons of salt, because that's what T is, the number of tablespoons of salt that result in a weight of 460, that would tell me, that would be the solution of this equation. That would be the solution in context. So on your cool down for this lesson, you're going to be asked to do something very similar to this salt shaker example. So you're going to have to find one possible solution to the equation. And remember, all I did was I picked a number. I happened to pick 5, and I plugged it in, and I got G equals 400. So you're going to find a solution and explain what it means, and that's what I did right here. And then you're going to be given a different equation where G is a different number. In this case, G is 460. And you're, instead of solving it, you're going to say, what does the solution represent? In this case, it's the number of tablespoons of salt that result in a weight of 460 grams. Okay. I would have this example 5 and 6 in front of you as you're working on your cool down, because it's going to help a lot. As always, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me. I will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. But right now, what I would like you all to do is to go into Google Classroom and attempt the cool down. That is it for today's lesson.